Hi guys, welcome back to the after show portion of the Big Apple School podcast where we were discussing the topic of skills. So welcome guys, thank you for being part of the conversation, and don't forget to leave your comments and practice your English writing skills. And of course, check out the vocabulary list where you can get all the words from the podcast. So, I said before we would talk about English language learning skills or language learning skills in general. So what skills do you need to learn a language? Do you need to be a super genius to learn a language?
I don't really think so.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
No. But you need a certain level of intelligence.
That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Good memory, definitely.
I would say you just need to be like a parrot.
Yeah, but you have to remember to,
Yeah.
don't just...
You just need a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to scare people who are not necessarily that intelligent away from learning languages. I mean, if you think about it, Gopniks can just about speak their own native language.
By the way, just yesterday, during a class, so a student shared her previous experience in the group. And she said there was a guy and he was swearing in Russian all the time.
Yeah.
Really?
Seriously. So I think, and she said, you must remember this person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So because,
Funny guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Idea.
He was actually swearing like every moment he couldn't understand something. So like in Russian,
Maybe he got Tourette or something.
No,
By the way.
he was just a fun guy. Let's just say.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I was.
But he had a pretty good vocabulary range in English. He just needed to work on his grammar. But yeah, so
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, what would I do if I had this situation in the class? Maybe I would talk to the person, to try to explain it's inappropriate, but what would you guys do? Seriously.
In case of swearing,
Yeah,
it happened to me back in Vietnam, and one of my students warned me, or a teacher, that student swears, and I started swearing in Turkish. And they didn't understand what I was saying, and I didn't understand what they said, and it was kind of a fair game. So they stopped. They stopped swearing.
They
yeah.
stopped.
So that
Okay.
worked. I could do the same thing.
Speaking
if
of
it happens
skills,
here.
I was watching this YouTube channel about this guy who talks about how to improve your teaching skills as an ESL teacher. And he said, if you ever have a kid in your classroom who misbehaves, he said, here's an amazing technique. He says, invite the kid to lunch and make the kid sit with you and have a whole entire lunch break in silence with this kid, and he will never cause a problem.
Definitely.
Silence? You mean?
Yeah, so have lunch with the guy, buy the kid lunch, and just eat lunch with him. And
without any
complete
speaking.
silence.
Yeah.
And he's not. And the next time he makes problems in the classroom,
I guess next time he's not coming. That's it. That's it, probably. Yeah.
Pretend like he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Just like a ghost or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to learning languages. So skills, I would say it's not really skills, just motivation, really. What would you say?
But still, I think you need to have, critical thinking, because when you study different language, there's so much information that differs from your language or from your perception even. So you have to be open to that, like open-minded. Right.
Analysis.
Yeah. Also, what I love about that, the further you go in learning English or any other language, you just kind of you broaden your horizons.
Right.
Not just in English, but because you have to speak about something, about difficult topics. Yeah. If you go to advanced, you will definitely speak about science, about something like that, and you get more intelligent. So you have to have curiosity as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on a practical level for our listeners, if let's say we have a listener who just cannot make progress with learning English, what would you say that they need to do? Let's say they are at, I don't know, a B1 level and they really want to get to that B2 or even C1 level. What would you say that they have to do?
Practice.
Exactly. Make time for practice.
Yeah. Don't stress yourself, don't push yourself too much.
And
So
you
it's
can
like-
replace your everyday routine, like watching something on YouTube. Just watch it in English instead of your like native language.
Yeah, make it a rule.
Rule, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to take a really cold, hard look at your daily routine, and you need to be honest with yourself. How much time do you have with your language, the language that you want to learn? And most of the time, if you're not making progress, you will find, oh, okay, it's because I'm spending 5 minutes a day with the language.
It doesn't work, yeah.
Absolutely. Use TikTok, use whichever app, but you need to spend more than 5 minutes. You need to spend at least like an hour every day with the language. But it has to be fun.
But people still say like, you'd rather, spend like 15 minutes doing exercises, for example, rather than you have, let's say 2 hours once a week. So again, like you can, I think we all can find about 10, 15 minutes a day.
You're right.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. So instead of, scrolling down the news, you can just do that. So why not use that time?
Exactly.
Like watch something, like if you have some grammar problems.
Works.
I mean, obviously you can't be completely dumb to learn language, but you don't have to be really clever either. You just need lots of time. Like if you think about it, sorry, I don't mean to criticize football players, but you do have some football players who learn a language like a really good level, and they're not exactly like huge brains. I mean, maybe maybe
That's a stereotype,
it is a stereotype, but maybe they are secretly, and they just. But a lot of football players speak languages really well.
Yeah, I've always been, fascinated by the stereotype that, athletes are dumb.
Because of the steroid, maybe.
Maybe something like that. But I mean, they get a lot of oxygen to their brain, so their brain is supposed to work better, actually.
They learn in a kinesthetic way, I guess you can say.
Probably.
Yeah,
I guess.
So, sorry, football players. I didn't mean to be so
Don't
harsh on
sue
you.
us.
Well, yeah, and you have. Well, I was watching a video about. Do you know what's his name again? Jack Ma. Jack Ma, the owner of Alibaba.
Alibaba, yeah. He's in prison right now. Huh?
Is he in prison?
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because of the government, I guess they have a kind of problem.
No way! I didn't know that.
Makes sense.
As far as I know, yeah.
But he speaks English really, really well. And he said that he went to a local hotel in his local Chinese village every day for 9 years, and he would speak to the English tourists every single day. And that's
being
why
a receptionist, maybe kind of thing.
I don't think he was a receptionist. I think he said something on the lines of he was like a tour guide. He would speak as much as possible to these tourists. And imagine if you spoke every day for 9 years. You would get bloody good at the language, and he did.
Yeah, speaking of learning English and the skill specifically, so I remember I had an assistant in Indonesia, and she was, she had this obsession with foreigners. So, for example, she told me when she was a teenager, she would go to the market and catch foreigners, and would actually speak to them and practice her English. And of course, her level was good, but again, at what cost? So
Obviously, you can't just practice reading. Absolutely not. Yeah, you can't just do that. You have to.
Yeah.
I would say the most important skill, according to Steve Kaufman, that famous linguist on YouTube, who I always talk about, he said listening is the most important, and then reading and speaking comes behind all of those.
Yeah.
You cannot speak without knowing the structure or
The
words.
sounds, yeah.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
Yeah, you can practice one word over and over and over again. But yeah, how are you going to learn new words?
Yeah. Because
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah, some people say, especially some students, even lower levels, especially lower levels, because you probably don't understand yet. I don't want to read. I don't want to do anything. I just want to speak.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want a grammar. So
The grammar is the worst enemy. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on, guys.
What can all be divided into two parts: input and output. Speaking is output.
Receptive skills and productive skills.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
So you need to be having loads of input before you can even try output. I mean, that's just a theory, but
I mean, you're supposed to try to speak from the first classes. Yeah, at least something easy. My name is, and so on. Yeah, but of course.
but you have to know what my
Yeah.
name is first.
Of
before you
course,
even
of course,
say
of
it,
course.
exactly.
Model it,
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
make
Yeah.
them repeat it. Then
Yeah, I mean, that's why
Scaffold
we
it on.
introduce
Yeah, yeah.
first, then we gotta
Yeah.
try to make the students speak, actually.
So yeah, your speaking skills are directly linked to the input that you get.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Like, how are you gonna
sound.
say
Mhm.
anything if you
Mhm.
can't, if you don't know what it is?
Obviously.
And
Mhm.
also, the tricky thing with English is that the words, you don't pronounce the words as you read them,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
Some languages, I believe it's Spanish and
French?
yeah, French,
Most
kind
of
of.
French words.
Yeah, you look at a word and you can pronounce it,
Mhm.
whereas English, unfortunately, is not like that.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
need to have some listening there to
Mhm.
know how to pronounce it. So how did you all get so amazing at speaking English?
I speak to myself.
Yeah, do you, so like when you're
That's
like
it.
in the shower, you're like blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
You speak
yeah.
English to yourself, really?
All right. Yeah.
Oh,
I know
good.
that sounds weird, but I started doing that when I was about 16 years old, and that's how I started to improve my speaking skills. You
think
can laugh at me, but it
yeah.
works.
No,
I
no,
used to do
works.
that too.
Obviously worked, yeah.
Yeah.
I used
That's
to do
cool.
that too, actually. Yeah, just to kind of show off to myself, But it was like when I was a teenager, I was just studying, I was also maybe 13, 14, 15, and I was just, kind of understanding like that I can actually speak the language. And I was
Right.
like,
You said show off. I think you need to use that to your advantage. You need to want to show
Yeah.
off.
exactly.
And that's what keeps you motivated.
Mhm.
Like,
I can do that and I can do better than that.
Right.
So you can
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
improve your.
Yeah, that works a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, especially I remember I went to an English school. Special language school.
mhm,
After school, like 2 times or 3 times a week, I don't remember.
mhm.
And there were native speakers coming to us. And I remember the thrill, when he or she comes and I'm speaking and they understand. And it's like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
it's
You,
like,
you feel the satisfaction.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, especially like when you're at that A2, B1
Mhm.
level, you're like, oh,
Mhm.
that's so cool.
I can do
They
that, yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
was already maybe B2 already
Yeah.
at that time, and it was even better. I had some struggles actually to start to speak because I was really good at, writing, reading, like productive skill,
Mhm.
kind of, like always things. But then I remember the moment when I started speaking, and I actually started speaking well. And it was like,
Mhm.
It's cool,
Yeah.
isn't it?
yeah. And there was also like Canadian guy, I think. And he was like, Natalie, you have improved. And I was like, oh my God. Wow. That was like so amazing.
So again, yeah, that's how you do it. Like you listen a lot, you read a lot, and then you have something to say. 'Cause
Exactly.
You know the
Exactly.
words, you know the structure. So speaking does not come first, like all the time.
Yeah, it's like an iceberg. Like at the bottom of the iceberg, you have
yeah.
all the listening and reading and vocabulary,
Yeah.
and a
Mhm,
bit of
mhm.
grammar, and then speaking is at the tip at
Mhm,
the top.
mhm. There are lots of
Yeah.
students, they can study English for years, but still they feel really uncomfortable speaking. Like I had a lot of students like that. But then eventually, like, they just start speaking.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
Just,
Just like that.
yeah.
Well, if anyone can think of someone who speaks a second language to a really high level who did not put any hours into it, it's just impossible. You can't.
For sure.
Can you think of anyone
Obviously.
who's done that? I mean, have you calculated how many hours you've had with English?
A lot.
Probably a few thousand.
Alive, alive, yeah, in a way.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a way.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
I've heard somewhere, maybe it was Robert Greene, this famous author. He said, or someone else said, that it takes 10,000 hours
Yeah,
to master
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
a skill.
Yeah.
Maybe you've
Exactly.
had around that kind
I think
of
much more.
More
Like
than
way
that. More
more.
than that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, 10,000 hours is a lot
Of
of
time.
time.
Sure.
If you think about it. So let's say you do, oh God, this is maths time.
We tried.
Maths time. Okay, let's say you have 7 days a week. Okay, well done, 7 days a week.
Let's try and
24 hours in a
calculate.
day.
Let's say if you
Okay.
have 6 hours of English every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 6 times 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's 42.
Yes.
What is next?
42.
What is the
So
score?
what is
Okay,
next?
so 42. Okay, so let's times that by 365 because it's 365 days in a year.
Mhm.
So what's that? 42 times
It's already 15,000.
15,000 or 1,500
So it's 15,330.
or 1,500
15,000.
15.
Yes, it's already
So
Like,
40
more than 10,000, right?
Yeah. Wow. So actually,
But let's be
Wow.
honest, you won't study for 6 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's the
why
point.
you
That's
need
the
to
point.
just
So
reduce that,
realistically,
lower that
Yeah.
you're going to
practice
do
time.
1 hour a day
Mhm.
Yeah.
realistically. Or if you're really motivated, if you make English or any language like a video game, then you can easily spend 2 or 3 hours
wait,
a day.
I think we miscalculated
I
actually.
think, yeah, I think it's like 2,000
Yeah, exactly. Because
something.
so first we multiply by 7, and how many weeks
So
are there?
42.
Yeah, wait a second.
Weeks
so,
in a
So what's
year?
42
So
times
6,
365?
7.
Ah, okay.
So how many weeks are there in a year?
Like
52.
52, I think. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
So it
2,000.
should be
It's
6
just
times.
2,000.
Yes,
Yeah,
2,000.
exactly.
Oh,
So at that
yeah.
rate,
So 5 years,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, you don't need 10,000 hours with English. You probably need about, I don't know, 3,000 hours or 4,000 to get to like a B2 level. But to get to like a C2,
C2.
or C1
Mhm.
level, you need thousands and thousands of hours. So you must have
Exactly.
spent like literally years to get to where you are.
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, or I know you've said before your story. You told your story before.
Mhm.
How did you get your English to your current level?
It's starting from the kindergarten to the university.
Yeah.
I was surrounded with the Americans and British people. So
Yeah.
the kindergarten was an American kindergarten. Primary school, middle school, high school, they were like an American
Yeah.
school. And I attended American culture and literature in university. So
Yeah.
all of my teachers were American or British people. So we
Yeah.
didn't have any chance to speak
Right.
Turkish in
Yeah.
our break times too. So
So what's that? That's literally like 5 or 6 hours.
minimum 6 hours in a day,
Yeah.
plus 2 or 3 hours extra method
Wow.
lessons, and nearly like an 8 hours in a day. You need to speak English. And yeah, so when you go back home, okay, if
So you've literally had thousands and thousands of hours.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's starting like at the age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said it's kind of been life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our
Definitely.
listeners who probably don't have the same
Amount
like,
of time.
amount
yeah.
of time, what can they do to surround themselves with English?
Meet native speaker people.
But
Yeah,
it's
all the
Well,
media,
not- but yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
yeah. We,
can
we
always-
always say that, but you know
it's
what?
not something logical, or you can't do
It's
it all
not-
the time. in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah. It's
That's the
where
thing.
it's like students always ask me like, but how can I meet a native speaker? Where do I meet
They
him?
don't
Where
even
her?
need to meet native speakers. I don't really think so. Like you can
Watch.
meet
Hmm?
like
Yeah, you
people
can
who
speak to
speak-
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. Well, maybe if you're at like the C1 level, then yeah, it makes sense to meet with native speakers so you can learn like nuances of phrasal verbs. But when you're like just wanting to get confidence to speak, you don't need to speak to a native speaker. You can,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Olga did, like speak by yourself in front of mirror and
Not mirror.
not mirror. No, okay,
Just sit on the
Just speak
sofa
it
and start
yourself, yeah.
speaking.
Start speaking.
That's it. Like, I have that desire to speak and I have no one around.
Oh.
I'm home alone. I'm like, okay, cat.
Gaining confidence.
Yeah,
more confidence.
come here. We have something to talk
Talk
about.
about.
Yeah.
Let's settle this down.
Yeah. So I'm still amazed, like, how come he doesn't speak English? Because every time I have, for example, online lessons, he's always on my table. And sometimes he's watching my students. So
He gets the phrases and everything. Okay.
right. And that's all for free, by the way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, yeah.
So and yesterday I had a lesson and my student, so we were kind of screen sharing, and he used the pointer, and my cat was sitting near the laptop, and he saw the pointer like
Follow.
he was
Yeah.
like okay, and I was like stop it because he's gonna break down now, and he was like oh
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of funny.
so yeah, it's tough getting all this time in with learning English, and you need to like it's not an option. It's like an obligation. Like, if
Right.
you want to learn
I
English.
love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously you have to be motivated. You have to really want it, but it's not an option. You have to.
It's like a marriage. I guess.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Marriage.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of want to make all my students sign a contract.
So makes sense. So you studied,
Yeah.
okay, and you
Yeah.
can't give up. Yeah.
Right.
So when you come to us at the Big Apple School, or when you want to speak with an English teacher, you need to speak as much as possible. At home, you need to be listening, reading, doing exercises, everything you can think of. But when you come to us, don't just sit there. Use as an opportunity to spray.
Don't
your
hesitate.
English.
Yeah.
Or for the after show chat, of course, you can practice your speaking in the after show chat with voice messages. So Ruslan,
yeah.
keep those voice messages coming. Yeah.
But with words, the spoken ones.
Yeah. So what else do we have? Writing skills. Is it important to learn how to write English to a high level?
Yes. That's what I keep telling my students. They never want to write. They don't see why doing that. They keep asking me why doing that? It doesn't make sense. I don't write by hand and stuff like that. But every time they give me hand in a written task, I tell them, see, you have mistake here, you have mistake here, and mistake here. And that's kind of mistakes you have in speaking as well. So every time you write, all the speaking mistakes you will have them written, and you can correct them. And, it's way more beneficial to remember that, that is a mistake. So I can tell you it works, but still they don't listen.
They don't
So
like
maybe
it.
it's a good idea to get students to write more informal language. Because I guess maybe more formal language, maybe that's for a later time. Whereas writing
CV
dialogue
or email. So before
but
that,
still,
make a dialogue, right?
writing dialogues would be a great exercise.
Right, or some kind of story, because they have lots of struggles with writing stories. But again, I keep telling them you cannot write a story, but how can you tell me a story if you cannot write it? So that's the whole point.
Yeah. We're not necessarily talking about spelling mistakes. We're talking about more word order and structure.
Right, structure.
Because even I make spelling mistakes.
That's okay.
Everyone makes them.
We make them too.
Same. Same here.
So writing is actually surprisingly important. So get your pen out and get writing. Well, guys, if you have questions, if you want to know more about how to improve your English, please write in the after show chat and we'll definitely get back to you and practice your skills there. And also, like I said before, check out the website, which is www.BigAppleSchool.com. And there you can find more grammar articles or just general articles we can read about. Well, recently, Ayub, our new colleague here at the Big Apple School, he wrote an interesting article about his motherland, Algeria. Really interesting article. So
it was actually interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about Africa, to be honest.
So
Although I have a student from Africa, so he lives there. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, cool.
Just recently. Yeah, and he lives in Guinea.
Yeah.
And he lives in the Russian community, in foreigners community, but still, it's so interesting, I think.
Cool. Yeah. So many interesting articles, and shout out to your students. Check out the website and stay tuned for the next episode, which will be coming shortly. So thank you. Bye for now.
See you. Thank you, guys.
See you next time.
Ya.